check it out. Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode 2 of a Fowl Discussion. Yeah, I got to look at my notes because I'm still a little bit excited because we done our first episode and then the Americans had their Thanksgiving, so then we had to put everything on hold and we couldn't do our show because everybody had to go eat turkey on the night that we were going to go have our show, but nonetheless, I digress. It's all good. It's awesome. We've had some great feedback from the first episode. We'll get into that as we get going throughout the show here. But we've got and if you're watching this right now and you haven't watched the first episode, I'm going to ask you to push pause and go back to that first episode and watch. Our first guest was Jeff Coates, and for those of you that do know Jeff, you know the type of person that he is and the entertainer that he is. So go back and give yourself that little treat. If you don't know who he is, check him out on social media and you'll quickly see why he was on the show and you will not be disappointed. But we've got a lot that we've got left to accomplish with this show. And the only way that we're going to be able to do that is with your help. So we're really asking that you, subscribe, like, spread the word, shout it from the rooftops, tell your friends, get it tattooed across your chest, whatever it takes. Let's get the word out there and let's continue this foul discussion. So tonight we've got I don't know what to say. Do we call him the Spec King or do we call him Dangerous Dave? Like what? I was leaning towards Dangerous Dave, but then I heard the story about the Spec Call, and now I'm like, I think I'm sort of leaning towards Spec King now. Or like SK. We'll just call him SK. Yeah, we'll just keep it simple. So we've got David Barnhart on with us tonight. We're going to talk more about him, and he's going to get into his story, his history, how he's tied in, and how he met Bobby, and how this relationship has gone, how this relationship has started and has evolved and is carrying on over the last little while. But first, we got to introduce Mr. Eric Massey, coming to us from the great state of Kansas. Well, all of them are coming to us from the great state of Kansas, but Eric's coming to us from Kansas. We've got Mr. Bobby Hayes, the mastermind behind the show. He's coming to us from Kansas, and obviously David SK is coming to us from Kansas too, and I'm up here in Canada. I wanted to get into this, and Dave, we'll get through some of this, verbal diarrhea, I guess, up front, and we'll get rid of all this, and then we'll get into you. But Eric, I know you had said that you've had a few friends that have had a chance to listen to the first episode, and I'm just curious because I haven't had a chance to pick your brain yet. What is the consensus? And if it's bad, it's bad. If it's good, it's good,
Yeah, no, it was all positive. It was, the word that kept coming up was transparency. People just liked the honest answers. They liked the format, that it wasn't pushing an agenda, and it wasn't like, we weren't trying to be experts on anything. I think guys are about as full of tips and tricks and that kind of thing that as they can get. And I think that guys, just wanted something they could turn on in the truck while they were scouting or something like that, and they wanted to listen to it. So it was all real positive. Guys, the attention I got was that they left it on the whole time, and they weren't bored of it. They never turned it off or anything like that. So it was real positive. So
they're not going to turn it off. Like, look at us. Like,
right,
we are pretty
yeah.
we are pretty entertaining, I would think. Bobby, what about you? Like, you've had some time after the show to watch it. It was your idea to come up with this, and I know you might be a little bit biased to think that the show was awesome, but I know you've went through it with a fine tooth comb. What are your thoughts on the show, and what are you hearing?
I think we did good. I think we could have went a little deeper into some of it.
Yeah.
Which can be hard to do. So I'm hoping tonight hopefully we don't bore everybody. We're kind of talking about the same thing, but I think you can talk about this for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the more of it, the better.
Awesome. Cool. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The jury is out. Episode 1 was a success. I'm taking what Eric and Bobby say as though it was hands down a success. And we're moving on to episode 2 with SK here. And we're only going to get better as these shows keep going. So just like we said on the last episode, listen, message anybody that's on this show. Message and let us know honestly. Like if there's something that you want to see done different, then tell us. If there's something you want us to touch on, tell us. We've all got big shoulders, and we're able to take some criticism, so long as you're not a complete douchebag. That's the word of the night, fellas. I'm gonna throw that one out a fair bit. So, SK. Listen, man. So you know what? Like, so when we done after we had done the first show and we were chatting, I was like, so how do we want to do this? Like, do we want to have the same people on every show? Do we want to bring on a different guest every week? Sort of thing. And then Bobby was like, well, I got this guy. Dave. And he's like, I think he would be an awesome person to have on the show because he's going to give a real different outlook, and an outlook that I think a lot of the people that listen are in the same boat as you. So I'm sort of gonna guide you along the way where I want you to go with this, but start off on your your history of your very first time that you decided, hey, listen, I this is where I come from, and this is the exposure I had to duck hunting.
Yeah, so a lot of times when I listen to a podcast or something on YouTube about people getting into duck hunting, a lot of stories you hear is, well, my dad took me or my uncle took me, and which is great. We need to make sure we're taking people out as waterfowl hunters, but mine was a little bit different. My dad really didn't hunt much when I was growing up. He's a dairy farmer, and for those who know anything about dairy farming, it's pretty 24/7, 365. So it's not that he didn't enjoy hunting when he was young. It's just he was running a business, and he just didn't have time to go in the morning to take me hunting at all. But I always enjoyed being outside. I enjoyed hunting. I enjoyed shooting guns and just experiencing everything I could out in the wild. So the best thing I could do growing up was pond jump, right? I think a lot of people do start there because you don't know how to set decoys. You don't know how to call birds. You don't know how to go on public land, or you don't have maybe you have public land around you, but it requires a boat. You don't have a boat, or you don't know how to yet ask permission to get on land or anything like that. So I would just kind of run around the dairy and pond jump and shoot a lot of birds. So I shot my first band was off of a pond, right? Pond jump. So it was a lot of fun because I could go pond jump and I could jump in. So, but never really went out and set a decoy spread and learn how to actually, what I would call the more traditional style waterfowl hunting. So went off to college, spent a long time away, and came back to the farm when I graduated and decided, oh, now I actually have a little bit of free time on my hand besides farming. I want to learn how to duck hunt, like legit. Like I want to learn how to set a decoy spread. I want to learn how to run a call. I want to learn how to find birds, all that. So I just kind of bought a dozen cheap decoys from Cabela's, right? An old duck call, and didn't know how to use it, and started finding places to hunt. And that first year I came up to Kansas and was hunting central Kansas on public land, and just really got hooked on it, beyond just pond jumping. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to do everything. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to have all the gear and to enjoy being out there. So that's kind of how I got started with it. Just picked up and started going.
Yeah, and I think that's very typical. Even though your dad was busy and he wasn't able to take it, like that's how I was. I started pond jumping, and because where I was from, that was all anybody done. Nobody went out the traditional way, right? So that was the only way I learned. So now, that's your history. You fell in love with it. You come up. You're in central Kansas, you're on public land, and it's not enough for you, right? Like you still got that desire, you still want to learn, And this is what's so amazing about this waterfowl community, is because people think, and Eric, I know you brought it up before, where people think this waterfowling community, world, industry, whatever word you want to use, is this massive, big thing, but it really isn't. It's small. So this is a long way to get around the fact that you started following Bobby Hayes and his YouTube videos, right?
Yeah. So like I said, I had this old poly call and didn't know how to use it, and I wasn't around a whole lot of duck hunters at the time, and so the few I were around, looking back now, I know not the best duck callers out there. I didn't know any better, right? They were making better sound than I was. So when they told me something, it was gospel, right? Like, oh, yeah, just grunt to the call and say wit or whatever. Okay, so you get a little bit of a noise out, then you go out there, you're using it, and it's like, dang, these ducks seem like they really do not like something here. Well, it's probably me standing out there trying to blow a duck call, sounding terrible. So I go to YouTube. I was like, I need to figure out how to. I need to figure this out, right? This is bothering me because I think it is holding me back, right? So as you want to get better and better, because there's 1,000 little things that go into a good duck hunt, right? So and some of that is the call. So I don't want this to be a barrier to me anymore. So I go on YouTube, I'm looking around, searching the web, and I come across a YouTube series Bobby did. It's probably 19 years ago now.
Yeah, it's old.
Right? Yeah. It's like a white screen in the background he's in front of, right? He has longer hair in those videos.
Oh, please. Oh, Jesus. I gotta find this. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. I gotta find that.
So he says, his first one is, how do you do a basic quack, right? And I, Bobby's a great friend of mine now, but I'll be honest with this. No one can teach a duck call better than Bobby can, hands down. I've watched so many YouTube videos, right? And when I came to his, the way he breaks down the call, the way he breaks down what your tongue should be doing, what all this stuff means, and how to get certain sounds out, it just made so much sense to me after he said it. Now, I'm not saying I went on and I'm a great caller. Bob still works with me all the time for my calling, but that helped me realize that you know, you got to practice, and Bob just does a really good job of breaking down how do you run a duck call. So I started following him on YouTube, looking for every video he had out there to learn, and started following him on Instagram, and just trying to keep eye out for what he was doing, looking at every picture, trying to see, okay, how's he setting his spread? How is he blowing at these ducks? You know, anything I could glean from him, I was trying to.
Awesome. So now, you found them on YouTube. You know, I'm picturing Bobby out in the field with a mullet, and his hair's blowing in the wind, and he's and he's teaching you how to blow a call, right? So now,
very mythical, right?
Oh, very. He got off a white stallion and the whole bit, right? So so now, you know, you're into learning the call. You're getting to be more successful, I guess, in your duck hunts, right? Because you're learning the call more and you're watching on the spreads and stuff. And then you actually move to Kansas. So like,
yeah,
this is just like, you can't make this stuff up, right? So talk to us about, you know, you and your wife actually moving up to Kansas now.
Yeah, so I was dairy farming at the time, and my wife was working at a local college, and she decided that, hey, you know, higher education is where I want to make a career out of it. So okay, that's great, you know, it's, you know, and but she was starting to kind of get to the point where she was ready for that next move, the next advancement, and it probably wasn't going to happen where she was, or it would take a lot longer. So I've been kicking around the idea of maybe not dairy farming anymore, and so we were talking. I said, hey, you know, if you want to advance in your career and this is what you want to do, we probably do need to move, right? Because when you're dairy farming, the dairy farm does not move easily. It's pretty stationary. So for her to go and advance, we decided to move. And so we were looking at universities all around the country. And I was in the tractor one day, and I called her and I said, you know what, have you looked at any schools in Kansas? And she's like, no, but maybe I should. So she started looking at Kansas schools, and it's about 6 months later, we were living in Kansas. So,
okay. So now tell everybody about that post that, you know, got you to where you are today. Now that you're in the inner, I don't know what that
Bobby
inner circle.
You're in the inner Bobby circle.
Yeah, you're in the inner circle of Bobby Hayes now.
I just have a few buddies I hunt with. That's all that is.
well, you know, I'll let me digress just a little bit, make a little more sense. So when we moved to Kansas, you know, here I am changing career, profession. I don't know what I want to do. And so part of the deal was me leaving the farm and us moving to Kansas was I could duck hunt full time for a season, right? And because I wanted to learn, you know, I wanted to get better. So I started duck hunting every single day. Start trying new things. And so I'm here in Kansas duck hunting every day. And all of a sudden I'm going through Instagram and I see a post Bobby put out, and it said, hey, looking for a camera guy, and you know, who'd come and do some filming for us. And I was like, well, I'm a guy. I have a camera. Like, this seems like a great idea.
Perfect fit, a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is he freezing up on you guys as well, or is it just me?
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while, just for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll just have to get, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, so just, yeah, we just lost you for a second. So if you could just say what it was that you were saying there, buddy, sorry.
No problem. So I messaged Bobby and told him that, hey, you know, I can come run a camera. and I'm hunting every day, so I have the flexibility to kind of do whatever, and that's kind of how it started.
That's amazing. So I really, that was 10 minutes of SK telling us, how this comes full circle. And that was what I was leading into when I said that this community of duck hunters it really is small. And I know, Eric, you and Bobby, you guys being part of that, the business side of it. I know you guys, it's even smaller for you guys, right? Because you know the movers and shakers in the world, right? But Dave, for you to be able, one day you're learning from them through YouTube videos, to the next day you're living in the same state, which is a coincidence. And then now you're replying and saying that you could, yeah, I'll come run your camera like that. It's pretty cool to see that it all comes full circle. And now I'm assuming that you've graduated, that you've put the camera down. So Bobby, I'll throw my hat in, buddy. If you need a camera guy, I'll come down. I'm a guy. I can run a camera. I know Dave's probably in charge of the spec calling now, so
I'm too busy running a camera now. I'm too busy.
We gave up filming a while ago. That is not my thing. No, but Dave is a really level-headed guy. He's got a giant brain, and he gets we're on the same page as far as hunting. Like, I knew he was on the page. I scout an incredible amount. He will ride around in the truck from daylight to dark when he doesn't know me, looking for a shoot and not complain at all. That's not common.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not common, and it's something that fellas don't put enough effort into, right? But then
depends on what you like to do. I'll scout for 3 days for one burner before I shoot crud for 3 days. So it just kind of depends on how you like to do it. But I would bet Eric does very similar, because that's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I don't know, Dave, what's your it?
Yeah.
Man.
I know, dude, it's a big question.
Yeah.
And I want to know when it happened. Your it, and when it happened.
Yeah, when you realize that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess let's talk kind of about what it is first. And that's not a very simple answer, is it?
No.
It's a lot to unpack there. I think that it's very multifaceted, and there's not one short answer to it. And I think we'd all agree with that. There are a lot of things that I enjoy about duck hunting. I love the gear. I love the birds. I love being outside. I love the guns. I love the calls. I love the dogs. I love the people I'm with. I love the boats and the water. Just everything that goes into a hunt, I really enjoy. I love scouting. Some of my best times is I enjoy when it's me and Bob and in one of the trucks, and we're just driving around all day long looking for birds. We have some great conversations. It's just it's a lot of fun. But all of that, right? All of that is for the goal of having success. And I think we even can define success differently. I know my success has changed a lot from the time I started to where I am now. So my ultimate end goal does look different. when I started out, I knew nothing about duck hunting. It was just about, can I go out there and shoot a bird today, right? Will I have any sort of a success there? And even within that, there were a lot of days I did not. Now I look at success a lot differently. And I think, Bob and I have had this conversation. Now it's not even, can I go out there and shoot my birds today? It's, hey, can a group of 5 or 6 of us go out there, shoot our ducks, shoot our darkies, shoot our specks? Not just me, but can we all do that? So, I mean, that is the end goal of what we're trying to do, right? And now that doesn't happen every day, obviously. It can be very few and far between it.
So that's kind of why I wanted you on, Dave, because you've got a shorter time span than I do. Because I'm 44 this year, so I've been doing this since I was 18. So, and I grew up with guys that did this really well. So I've got a different take on it than what your experience is with it. Just because of time, I'm more jaded than you're going to be on some of this stuff, because no matter how wonderful it is what you're doing, the more repetition you get, the more you dull to it, right? So that's why I was thinking your take on what the success is would be different than my take on it. Even though we're on the same page now, you got to in a different way than I did.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And some of it's a lot different now that I'm a part of a group of guys, right? Like that has dramatically changed what I would now view as a successful hunter, not even. When it was just me and I was hunting solo all the time, if I shot my 5 mallards, that was success, right? And now that I'm with this really great group of guys, it looks a lot different. It's just not about, can I shoot my 5 mallards? Just, can we all do that? So you look at the scouting differently. You look at everything a lot differently. But that's just the evolution that you go through as a hunter, right? And that's not to discount everything else, right? Because that doesn't happen every day. You can still enjoy the gear. You can still enjoy the calls. You can still enjoy being outside. You can still enjoy being with your friends, right? Like if you don't have those things as well, then those days you have just those bad hunts, then you just sit there and say, well, it was a terrible day. No, it wasn't a terrible day. You still had all those other awesome things you got to do. It's just you didn't have what you were after at that moment. But that's the great thing about duck hunting, right? You start at ground zero the next day. It starts over. There's no tagging out, right? There's no, well, I tagged out, I guess I'm done for the season. No, you get to restart it every day, which can be exciting and humbling, right? Because maybe you had an awesome day and the next day it's just doesn't go right. But the reverse is true to that as well. So that's
Eric, as an outsider now, so Dave and Bobby are part of a group, right? And they've sort of, come together and they're both on the same page, right? So now as an outsider for you, and remember when we first started talking about this, Bobby, like we talked about this idea of this show as though it was something that was needed, right? And Eric, and I've heard you say it, like this show is something that's needed and we need to get this message out here of the positive stuff about duck hunting and waterfowling and the culture and all those good things that Dave's talking about. So as an outsider, Eric, and you're listening now, and you've been doing it for a long time, just like Bobby, now you're listening to Dave. Like, how does that make you feel when you and Bobby are talking about this the first time and you're like, this needs to happen? Sorry, boys, that's the Toronto Maple Leafs just scored a goal. So, so that's hey. So a quick sidebar. So Bud Light up here in Canada, So you can buy these flashing lights, and you can sync it to your phone. So when your favorite team is playing, when they score a goal, this thing goes off and it'll let you know.
Oh,
So
love
anyways,
it.
yeah.
Perfect.
So hopefully that thing goes off a ton more times while we're on the show here tonight.
Yeah.
So sorry, sidebar. So Eric, now how does that make you feel to be able to hear somebody like Dave be able to say the things that he's saying right now?
Yeah, well, what's cool about it is that Dave's story is probably way more prominent than Bobby and I's story, right? So his story on how he got here and where he is or whatever, that's really that's the story we wanted to hear. We wanted to celebrate those stories too. We want people to know that people started that way and had different journeys to get there. Dave did not apparently win a spec calling contest at like age 13 or 14. And that's how, but for a lot of us, we found our groups, or we found people through sort of those events or whatever. And Dave did not. He found his through, he was pond jumping like like a lot of people, and he wanted to do better. He liked it. And he wanted to do other facets of it. And he just took, I think, what is probably a very similar route. When we talk about the waterfowl community being so small, right? The small group is probably Bobby and I. The larger portion is Dave and people like that take different journeys to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I like everything about it. I like the fact that, grinded on public ground, for all that time. And he's probably seen or heard a thing or two about calling and dogs and all kinds of stuff, that's important too. He's seen all kinds of probably spectrums of it, right? So I think that's cool. I just think that that's a story that we need to hear as many times as possible. And
Absolutely.
I think people who listen to podcasts need to listen to those stories. And I think those stories are the ones that resonate with people probably more so than Bobby and I's, it's probably, don't you think, Bobby, that's way more relatable to a lot of people?
Oh, yeah. Especially now than compared to 30 years ago. Like I said, I'm 44. I had 5 uncles that all hunted. They didn't all hunt waterfowl. Like my dad was a quail guy. I had 2 uncles that hunted waterfowl. The other 2 fished a lot. So I grew up in a family that did that stuff.
Yeah.
But man, most of the people that I talk to that are under 35, they don't grow up like that.
No.
At all. Yeah, like a lot of times they're the first one in the family that started hunting.
Yeah. I believe it or not, we, where we live, right? We think of it now as this awesome waterfowl tradition, rich kind of. But I don't know that I wouldn't have thought of that when I was 18 or 19. So I'm a 75. You're a 76.
77. Yeah.
And absolutely, the first start was a trip to maybe like Hiawatha, right? For it was upland. It was that's how we were raised, right?
When I was 18, I wanted to go anywhere but Kansas to shoot something.
Yeah. To me, the most traditional I thought of was Urich, Missouri. If you had a place on South Grand, that was like, whoa, you're a big duck hunter. I didn't know, but it's strange that we really don't have as much tradition, as other people, not even close to like the coast or California, believe it or not. I mean, that is so rich in tradition.
I got one to throw out for you is that we're seeing here in Canada. So when you're talking about how you know, what we think is the traditional way of being brought up into. So what we're seeing, we see our Ducks Unlimited and our Delta Waterfowl chapters doing a lot of youth hunts, which I know they do down in the States too, right?
Yeah.
But the thing we're seeing a ton of right now is single moms. Single moms with their kids, because their kids want to hunt, and the moms will come out and support their sons and daughters on that first youth hunt. And the single moms taking up waterfowl hunting as a means to be able to bond with their children more. So
I have quite a few in calling classes over the summer now.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Teach your kid to, what do they say? Teach your kid to hunt. You don't have to hunt for your kid.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other one was teach your kid to be a duck hunter and he'll never have any money to buy dope. So
that's right.
True.
No, I'd say my real point with this, like Dave's story, Eric's story, my story, with all this, I know that because I do this for a living, I don't know. Eric kind of really does this for a living because you kind of have two jobs. I don't want to speak for you, but I mean, I've known you for a while. So, but I don't particularly care for the messaging. Let me back up. I don't like to be ashamed of saying I want to go kill my ducks or anybody, because it seems like when you're on social and somebody talks about killing a duck or a goose, they go the opposite way and tell them how much they should just enjoy the sunshine and being out. And yeah, like I say, if that's your it, I think that's fantastic. But man, just like that's why I wanted Dave on here. You know, when you first start, it's hard to kill a duck. It may not seem hard after you've done this a while. So telling that person that what they're trying to do and learn is not important is a weird message to send out to me. Because I mean, that's really what you're trying to figure out for the first few years of doing this. So I wanted to go on and explain to people, no, I go out here, we hunt about every day. Not now because it's 75 degrees this year. But I try to kill my bird every single day. I try to be as good at this as I can possibly be. Like, that's my goal. I want to be as good as I can possibly be at this. And like me, Dave, our group, we don't guide. We treat a hunt like we are guiding, though. Like, we want it done that well. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think people that are newer to this need to hear that, like, that's fine if you want to be as good as you can be at this. But like Dave said, everything goes along with it is fantastic, and that's all part of it. But we're still hunting ducks. Yeah.
Bobby, I wanted to ask you this, and I know you're a pretty humble guy, so I'm really hoping that I'll get you out of your comfort zone here by asking you this question.
How does it name way more times tonight than I'm comfortable with?
So how does it make you feel, though, you know, when you say, you know, you're trying to create this culture, this atmosphere, this way of thinking, and then to know that you now have a really good buddy, a hunting partner that, what was it, 19 years ago, Dave, that you would have started listening? Is that what you said, 19 years ago? When
his videos came out about 9 years ago. His calling one did 19 years ago. And I was, it was probably,
Dave's a young buck. Yeah,
it was probably five years ago when I started watching Bottom.
So 5 years ago.
30, Dave. He's 30.
What? He's 32. 32.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel, though, Bobby, to know that, you know, your instruction videos has taken someone that was living in Texas to the fact that then he moved to Kansas, then he answered on an Instagram request that you had put out to now he's sitting in the truck with you all day long scouting. Like that's got to be it's got to be a pretty amazing feeling.
I'll back this up and not include Dave in this one. So one of the coolest things about my job, and I've tried not to talk about any call related stuff in here, but if I can teach somebody, I don't care if it's a kid or a kid and his dad or whoever, how to call, and I can help them a little bit during class with maybe how to set a decoy or maybe even how to scout a piece of public ground, because most of the stuff in Kansas and Missouri I've hunted at some point in time. So if I can help them a little bit, and then they message me or they come back the next year and say, oh my God, we had the best season we've ever had. Now that could mean they shot 3 ducks the year before and they shot 20 ducks the next year. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
We're just going for improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I helped a duck hunter be more successful. So it's pretty cool to make a duck hunter.
Yeah.
To throw one in because if he grabs something that he really enjoys, he's probably doing this for the rest of his life. Now he may go in and out of it because a lot of guys do. They get married, have kids, but he's in the license pool forever. It is a really cool thing. That's why calling clinics are free. It's not part. Dude, I got a ton of teenagers that have learned to call and look at ducks. Now you can't teach somebody how to call a duck. You just teach somebody how to blow a duck call. But it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Dave,
one of the cool things of what I do.
Dave, so again, you were the youngest person on this panel tonight, and you were
by far.
Yeah. So you had, like we've talked about, you didn't come from a traditional hunting family and all that stuff, and you took this on your own, right? So what are you, and the goal of this show is to be positive and not knock people down and not, you know what I mean? But like,
for sure,
what is your view? Like, how do you view this waterfowling community right now as somebody that's, you're 32 years old, you're still young and hip, if that's
we don't use that word anymore.
Oh, I think I dated myself again.
You did.
That's awesome. No, but seriously, like what's your thoughts? Like you see it, you see a different side of it than what the three of us do. So what's your thoughts?
Man, this is trying to stay positive.
Yeah, you got to stay positive.
A little thin ice around here. So when I was first getting into duck hunting, it seemed very intimidating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just told myself, hey, if you just keep going and keep just going forward with it and meeting people, like you'll eventually find people to help you, right? And I did. And a lot of the people I've come into contact with, whether it's at a boat ramp at 2 a.m. on some public marsh or, anywhere, have met a lot of really awesome people that have been very willing to help. I have seen Bobby just give out all his information, right, to someone new. Just like, it takes years to get good at running a duck call, right? And he's just like, here for free. Let me teach you for free, right? And not everyone does that. So there are definitely some great people out there willing to help and teach you. So I think overall the waterfowl hunting community is a great one. Now, social media, right, is I do think that you see, right? Would you agree with that?
Sorry, you were cut off there, buddy.
Hey, cut off, buddy.
I apologize.
No, you're
No,
good,
cut off-
man.
Cut off with social media.
Yeah, so with social media though, I think you see the extremes of both.
Yeah.
And so, I see some really good ones, and I see some that I look at and I kind of just, I don't know if this is the image we want to be putting forward for ourselves either. There is nothing wrong with having a pile of ducks at all. We strive for that every day. I mean, you take the ducks out of the equation. I guess I'm not going to duck hunt anymore, right? Like that's why we're out there.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think we can go about it in a respectful way that puts a good image out that we could be proud of too. It's like if you ever see these big game hunters right out west, before they take a picture, you hear about them kind of cleaning the deer up a little bit, right? Like, it doesn't have to be all blood and guts hanging out. Like, that's probably not the picture we should post on social media. I don't need to see you cracking a duck skull in your teeth. Don't need to see it. So I don't know if that really answers the question.
It does. And I think
both, right.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I think and I don't want to talk for Eric and Bobby and you guys chime in here, but I think that's the goal of this show, right? Is to bring the positive and the great things to the forefront and stop focusing and giving attention to the bad or the negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one thing he said, I think what's funny when you meet somebody, on a boat ramp or whatever, 2 a.m., things like that, isn't it crazy that you still find when you treat people the way you want to be treated, right? I mean, that goes beyond duck hunting, that goes in life, that goes with everything. And if you treat people the way you want to be treated, you still find that, that this waterfowl culture overall, the people that are doing it, if you treat people the way you want to be treated, you can find really amazing people.
I say it I say it in every post that I make on social media. I say it on every show. Surround yourself with good people. And that was something that my dad always forced onto us. Listen, if you're hanging around with good people, good things will happen to you. And that's something I've carried on for all my life. So very true.
There's been 2 times in my life that I have met whatever you want to consider them, your best friends or your circle or whatever.
Yeah.
And one was sports as a kid that I continued on. And then, I wasn't a frat guy or anything like that. So I didn't have that. So one was sports with baseball and the other has been waterfowl. I have met my best friends that I will have forever through waterfowl. I mean, I know people find it in different ways, right? But
my realtor, who I've known for 20 years, is from waterfowl. Yeah. I haven't duck hunted with him for probably 18 years, but I talk to him still all the time.
Yeah.
His grandkids and my kids hang out together.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got a little different take on this than I do, because you've built a duck hunter because you've got your son. Yeah. So you have a different take on what we talked about before than what I did. I haven't got to do that yet. I have a 10-year-old that is starting, so I haven't actually accomplished this.
Yeah. And you talk about the speed bumps and challenges along the way. With what Dave said with social media and that type of thing, it's tough. As much as you want them to find their own way, I think I have to guide him way more than I thought I was going to, if that makes sense. I'm not sure that I could have just, turned him over and turned him loose. And, I think I had to, coexist, and I had to probably have a lot more conversations than I thought I was going to have to.
Right. So I contemplate a couple things. One, I'm really glad social media wasn't around when I was 18.
Ooh. Yeah.
Probably for the better. So man, they got a hard roll on that. They really do.
Yeah.
Not just in waterfowl, just in general.
Buddy, I have a
But-
15-year-old daughter. You don't even know.
I
So,
got a 13, but we're not big into social,
Yeah.
so I haven't had to deal with this much yet.
Yeah, it's the social Bobby too. You know, you and I were talking the other day about we use the term interaction, right? That's the big Instagram term, interaction. The TikTok is ruining so much of that interaction. You can't have you can't keep their attention. If it's longer than 15 or 20 seconds, it's really hard to to keep their attention. So
with that, and trying to, so that we don't go down this big rabbit hole here. So with that, I think that this is exactly what this show is. And Bobby, you and Eric and David, and even you, because you grew up, I don't want to say you grew up, but you have more experience with YouTube and social media in your teenage and your young 20s than what I did, right? Because it didn't exist. So a show like this here, like the Fowl Discussion, this idea, I don't know if this is happening anywhere else. I think we are the only ones that are purposely pushing this mantra out into the world, right? And I think it's important to see, because I remember, Eric, you and Bobby very upfront and to the point the first time that we talked about this, that this was not to be a chance for you to plug your products. It wasn't something for you to sponsor or to get your name out there for your businesses or anything like that. The whole goal was to be positive and push nothing but good thoughts out into the world, right? So I don't know if there's another show like this that's out there, and I could be wrong, and feel free to tell me if there is another show, because I'd love to listen to it. But I think this is where it starts. Like, somebody's got to make that first step, right? And I applaud you guys, because you guys took and made the first step, that you said, listen, enough is enough. There's a lot of good that's happening in the waterfowling community, a ton of good. And we do not need to focus on the negative. There's a lot of stuff that we can focus on that doesn't have to be negative.
Well, what social is amazing about is, one, there's so much information for somebody that wants to get into waterfowl hunting.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Now, I don't know how you sort through all that information, but it is there. And like Dave said, it's a hard thing to get into. It's federally protected birds, so there's a lot of rules, and if you mess up, they're severe. So it is intimidating. And it's not like a squirrel hunt where if there's trees, there's squirrels. This is a particular animal. They're hard to hunt, and it's expensive. So social is great if you need to gain information on how to do this. So that is a super good part of it. But like, what I'd really like, if I could ask, and I go back and forth on this, because my business, man, I don't know how you have a waterfowl business right now and not be on social media. I don't think you could do it. I don't know where else you'd advertise right now. TV's kind of dead. Magazines, I don't know. I guess people still read magazines. But if I didn't do this for a living, I'm not sure I would be on social media. I'm not sure I'd have a cell phone, to be honest with you. If I didn't have to have one, I'd probably have a landline. But I know I'm a little different. But like, what I'd really ask is, like, what do you get out of it? Like, what does an 18 or a new hunter or 20, like, what do they really get out of it? I'm not sure. So that would be a question I'd love to know. Like, what are you getting out of participating? Because, like, I'll be honest, I am a member of no pages on social media. I do my own thing. I reply to comments, and then other than that, I don't do anything. But I know everybody is on all these pages, and I don't really know what it's for. Now, that doesn't mean I want everybody off social media, because obviously my business is on there. But it's a curious thing to me is what do you get?
I think you got to look at it. So I can tell you that we are seeing I don't want to say a huge increase, but we're seeing an increase in numbers. So I call these people hippies, but I'm sure there's another word for it. I call them hippies. But we're seeing an increase in these young people that are taking up hunting, waterfowl, big game, whatever, for the simple reason that they know where their food is coming from. So,
yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I would directly attribute that to, like, Meat Eater does an amazing job.
Yeah.
With that. Vincent does an amazing job.
Big time.
Telling us stories. So I think they have, and those dudes have a big platform. And I'm sure I'm missing one. I don't know who all these guys are. Do you follow these big game guys, Eric?
No, same as you. I mean, some of them, but I'll tell you guys a kind of a cool perspective is because I have one, and so you guys are wondering, like, what's on social. He will bring me what he's seen, right? And so I'm always like super interested, like, what's this, and it is it's big spins. It's like, chatter in the woods. It'll be like, hey, did you see Rusty Creasy,
Right.
the other day? Did you see this? Did you, and I'm always interested in him telling me that, because then I want to see it. Like, okay, well, what's getting his, what's getting his going, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't thrilled. He showed me one today that I actually sent it to Bobby. I had more people than I even knew what to do with. I mean, there was
it was like
it was, but there was a famous person there. I found out, Bobby.
Oh, there was?
Yeah. I didn't know. I didn't know either, and so he brought me that, and I was like, but there was a famous guy that was in the 30, and that's what the thing was. But so it's some of the same stuff. Like I can tell you that, like, a couple things that he's brought me, I'd be like, that was actually pretty cool. It's a big snow goose spin from old Tony stuff or something like that. Like the same stuff that he's bringing me, I'm like, that kind of gets my blood going a little bit too, right? But there'll be times that he brings me something that I don't agree with, that I don't find that interesting or whatever. But to your point, the stuff is out there. So that's a positive about social. There is some stuff out there. You have to filter through a bunch of crap sometimes or whatever, but there is some stuff out there that's super positive. And it's one thing is, and Dave, you might be able to answer this. I know that if you've hunted with Bobby, then you've seen a ton of stuff. But Bobby is not a snow goose chaser per se. He'll kill him if he can. But you may not have seen that yet. That you may be in a a spin, and that might be your it thing. You might find that or something like that. But that's another thing that social brings. One thing I wish, the sea duck hunting, back to Jeff Coates or whatever, I see some of that stuff and I'm like, man, that's the only way I think that I'm going to be able to see it, unless the three of us ever get up there and do it and say we're going to do it. That might be the only time I get to see it. I don't know. So some of that stuff is cool. It's still on social, and it's just harder to find. But if people talk about it, and we have stories about it, we bring people on, and those people have stories, and those people talk about their it, and it's different than all of ours, then that's cool. That's what I want to hear.
Dave, you squeaked out of your it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I was just getting ready to go back to this. So
I'm wondering if Dave is on his journey to his it.
So remember the very first night that I had said, I don't know what my it is, or not the first night, but when we had talked and I had figured it out after, and that's what I was going to go back to Dave, because Dave gave us like the smorgasbord of its, right? Like he gave us, gave us every it that there's possible to have. And he never narrowed one down. And that's great. That's fine, because maybe you haven't, like you're saying, Eric, maybe he hasn't realized exactly what it is.
I thought it was specs. I thought it was. That's my it.
That's your it.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, but seriously, like if you're on your journey, so let's just say for arguments. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
I was going to say, I think it has changed several times in the last 9 years since hunting, right? It went from, can I shoot a duck when I go out, to, hey, can I put myself in a position to shoot a limit on public land? And then it became, okay, I've started mastering my public land. Now, can I go to another state and find ducks, put myself in position to have success in another state? Okay, I can do that. Okay, now I'm in the group. Now can I help my group find success for everyone in that group? So it has changed, and I think it will continue to change. So I don't know if I have one solid answer. Like maybe this is my it now. I think my it's now is finding that big, just those multiple, ducks, geese, specs for the whole group, right?
So Dave, I want to jump in, because those, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not trying to tell you what to say or do, but those sound like goals, right? Because you're
exactly. Those, I am driven to duck hunt for goals. Right.
Oh,
like that is my it, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I am very goal driven. Once I achieve one goal, I'm looking for that next goal.
Okay. There you go.
Within waterfowl hunting.
So when Dave and I first started hanging around, he came out and he ran the camera a few hunts, and Dave's just one of those guys. You just love Dave right after you hang out with Dave. There's like 3 other guys that we hunt with regularly. I didn't leave anybody out, did I, Dave?
No.
Just 3. Yeah. So anyway, everybody loves Dave. By the way,
this must have meant that Dave wasn't very good on the camera, because Dave's not on the camera.
Yes.
It's not exactly good on the camera. But I was a guy. I was available.
Right.
Well, so every once in a while I get the spur that, okay, we're going to make a film, and then I get into this and I just have a hard time not hunting. And the group of dudes that I hang out with are killers, and that camera will not mess up their day. Love them to death, and they'll do anything for me, but the camera's not messing up their day. So anyway, Dave come out, and we're not really filming anything else, so we didn't want Dave to just leave. So, come down, Dave. And one of the first talks we had, because I've done all the steps Dave has done, as far as like, I used to just hunt public. I used to want to kill my birds on public, and then me and a buddy were going to kill our birds on public. And Eric and I have talked enough. He's done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of explained to him, so like the game now is, because there's always a game inside of this thing. That's what keeps everything going. It's a goal. There's always a goal. And like I said, I try to get better at this every year. Like I want to be as good as I can possibly be. But one of the first conversations we had was, so that's the games I have played, and now I'm on to this game. And this game is, we hunt with a group, and we try to fill the group up every day with our birds, which is a completely different game. 30 is a way different game than 10. Not that there's anything wrong with 10. Some guys really like the 10, and I have absolutely lived and died by the 10 or the 8 if you're in Missouri, your 8 mallards or your 10 mallards, and you're pinned on state. But I was like, this is the game I play now. But the game is not specifically set out like if you're going to shoot a 5-man of mallards and your honkers, it's not really for the quantity as much as it's a different scout, it's a different decoy spread. It's a more intensive amount of time to find that over and over and over. So you're interacting with the waterfowl heavier. So I would look at this as the same as, I'm not a deer hunter, but I would look at this as the same as we wanted to shoot a doe and then we wanted to shoot something that had a few points, and now we're hunting a trophy. It's more scout time. We got to learn the deer more. Everything is more intense. So the game ramps up. So when Dave and I first started hanging out, I'm like, well, this is our game. And then one of the first things after we hung out, he's like, this is a much harder game. And I'm like, oh, this is a way harder game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, when you find the spin, there's more eyeballs. The hide has to be better.
Yeah.
We hunt a lot of ponds. The wind's got to be right for the pond. It doesn't matter how many are on the pond. So everything changes once you go for a little more quantity. Now, I'm not a big 9 and 10 man guy. That's not my thing. That's kind of a new thing everybody's doing. But the game changes, and that's kind of where I think Dave, like, that became one of his new goals. Is like, yeah, I do like participating in this more intensive game on waterfowl.
Yeah, because it is more challenging, right?
Oh yeah,
it's a whole different level to it. It is all about the scout, and and okay, maybe we have a pond. Yeah, it has a bunch of birds on it, but not the right wind to set for 5 guys or something like that. So it is a lot more challenging. But with that challenge, I like it because now I get to sit around all day long and think about how am I going to, start accomplishing and those goals, right? How am I going to overcome that challenge? So I guess spend all my time just thinking about that.
Well, there's even a game inside of that, because if you've got, and now let me back. I am not down on the guy that hunts for his 5 or him and his buddies 5 at all. Like when I did that game, there's another challenge inside of that. Like everything's got to be at 10 yards when we're just going to shoot our birds. So there's all kinds of ways to make this challenging. This is just where I've gone to. But like when you've got 5 layout blinds, now you got to not only get them in, now they got to be in front of everybody. So everything turns into more, it's just more intensive, which I love. But like I said, I know that got Dave pretty excited when we started doing that, because it was something way different than what he was doing.
Fellas, we're getting close to that 60-minute mark now. And Bobby, I want to go back to something that you had said at the beginning of the show, and that was that you had hoped that we had dove deeper into it. And I'm wondering if we got into the deeper that you were hoping for on this episode.
I think we did. I'd like to hear on what I just said. What's Eric's thoughts on that? Because I got a feeling you do pretty similar.
Yeah. Inside that game or is our it moments, right? I mean, I think that's what we're talking about, diving deeper, right? I explained my it as being as up close and personal to, the largest wad that I can get under. Well, you can't do that without all of the things that Dave and Bobby just talked about. Mm-hmm. All of the games and playing all of those games. And that could very well mean scout for 2 or 3 days. I'm packed behind me and I'm getting ready to leave with Stoll. And yeah, there's, I mean, all that we'll be doing for probably the first 2 days when we arrive is scouting. That is what we'll do, and we'll try to achieve, you know, a goal per se. But inside that goal are those it moments, right? I mean, that's why I'm doing it. Selfishly, I want to freaking, I want my it moment. I want to keep getting my it moment over and over and over.
Yeah, your it moment releases those we're about to get scientific here. Yeah, but it's releasing those endorphins. That's what gets you excited. That's what gets you excited to get up at Old Dark Stupid and do this again, right?
Yeah. I mean, and the spread, like, like Bobby said, that was a great point. Like, everything about it is, gets different, right? I mean, Bobby, if we hunt a pond around here in after mallard season and we're just chasing honkers, that spread just looks so much different, right? And let's be honest, we don't probably put as much effort into those as we would something else, and those are fine, and those are still a lot of fun. But you want your it moment, it's going to take some work, it's going to take some time. It could be a game inside a game, but that if you want it, you got to put some work into it. And Dave is perfect example. He's gone from different its and different moments, and I believe, even listening to him, I think he's kind of still on his journey. I'll just be honest. That's what I think. But I love that he's, I like that he's recognized that, okay, this was cool. Ooh, what would be cooler?
Yeah.
It'd be a cooler game? This would be a cooler game. Ooh, shit. What would be a really cool game?
That's where I'm at right now. I'm wondering what he's going to come up with in a year, right? Like, I'm wondering, this time next year, what's his goal going to be?
Yeah. I hope he gets in my DMs and says, "Hey, let's go kill little geese. I want to see this shit. I want to."
Yeah.
I want to
be down for that.
But so that's cool. That's a cool story. I like that. But yeah,
this is completely off subject, but one of the most, I think, I don't know how this guy did this. I ran into this guy one time in Southeast Kansas, and it was shooting bands.
Yeah.
But this is where this gets crazy. This guy would scout a field for 7 or 8 days. As long as the feed would stay, he would have the band numbers written down.
Wow.
And have particularities on the birds, and he would try to shoot those bands.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and he would sit for 2 or 3 days without pulling a trigger if it wasn't that exact thing he wanted on that band. Yes.
Yeah.
That's next level right there.
I mean, dude, he was obsessed with it. But I was like, man, I couldn't do it.
No, if they got,
dude, it was his thing. No. And I mean, he did, for what he was doing, he did well at it. But that is where he found, and he would call in and say, "Hey, all these bands are here. They're not taken, but this is what I'm seeing." Yeah, and give them all kinds of information. But he would have particular ones he wanted, and he would hunt that flock and try to get those.
Wow. That's next level dedication right there.
Oh my God.
Hey, I will tell you something that Dave probably on his journey, because I know that Bobby and I can probably, whatever's running in our blood and veins now, I can still drop down. Like, I can still very much get a phone call tomorrow, and from a really good friend that says, come do this, and it's kind of out of that realm, and I know that my it moment's not in it. Like, it's not going to be there. It's going to be a buddy's club, and he wants to hunt with his dad, and I'm like, I can still reverse. I can still drop down, and all that same stuff. I still have a really good time. but it will be interesting to see if Dave, can go back. Like, Dave, could you jump a pond tomorrow if I asked you to?
I mean, listen, I'm all about opportunity. So I mean, I would, but I don't. I know I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I.
Talk you into setting decoys.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is interesting because you can, and I think, Bobby, we could roll out names. We've known some people that probably, couldn't roll it back. They couldn't find their happiness. They couldn't find little moments in little things, and they pushed limits, right? They crossed lines, gray areas, that type of thing. That's important too. That might be something we could talk about or something, Damien. But that does interest me because it's not that Bobby and I by any means have reached some pinnacle or whatever, but it is when do you stop, right? Could Bobby, could you be in a new game in a year or two from now, and could you go back? Could you hunt public land tomorrow for your 5 ducks, Bobby? Tomorrow by yourself?
I do a little bit, but it's not the same game.
Yeah.
And man, there's a whole can of worms because I know you'll get a certain group of guy that says it's more challenging, and you'll get a certain, but it all just depends on what you're doing. And now there are certain public stuff that, man, you can't get much better, but it depends on the conditions. Yeah. So,
but the real message, Damien, is enjoying that all the way.
Absolutely.
And not criticizing any of it.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Like, we're not here to say, listen, if whatever it is, it is. Like, if it's sitting and watching a field for 3 days to get that one band that you want, then hey, you know what, buddy? Good for you, because you got way more patience than what I do. But and go back to what you said at the beginning of the show, Bobby. If it is the sunset, good for you. Listen, I am not.
A hell of a lot easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but like, I'm not here, and I know the 3 of you are not here to chastise anybody for what it is. The goal here is to help people just think about it. What is it that gets your blood pumping, that makes you want to do this? Like, and everybody is different, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to have it be something that is just what I would think is ridiculous. It's fine. But you look at Dave. Like, Dave is a goal-orientated person, so it is evolving constantly. It's constantly evolving. So who am I to sit back and say, well, you're doing it for the wrong reasons? That's the same thing as that he could fire back at me and like, so really the only thing you care about is watching your dog? You know what I mean? Like, it's a two-way street. So who am I or who are any of us to tell somebody that their reason for chasing migration is wrong? And that's what we're trying to do here. But fellas, we do really need to sum this up, because I do not want the fellas and ladies that are watching to go, holy smokes, these guys will just go forever. Because I know we would. We really would. But I really do like that idea, Eric, that you said on another episode or somewhere down the road that we talk about this, being able to go back. I can go back. Because it doesn't really change. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the environment. It doesn't matter anything. Because it's all about my dog.
I'm learning to.
Yeah.
I'm learning to. That's and my 18-year-old, that's what has pushed me into it.
Yeah.
So I am learning to go back.
Yeah.
I can tell you my it is not gonna, it won't change. I'm not gonna
in
find
case
a new it, but
Dave, in case you haven't seen, and I am just waiting for the opportunity to release this to the masses of Eric in this little
having an it moment,
because actually when you watch this show, Eric, I strategically placed you right at the end of the intro because it is so good. Like it is raw emotion and I love it. And it's awesome. Listen, let's do a quick round the table, get some final thoughts in and do our conclusion and sum this up and then we'll have something for the next episode. So we'll go Eric, then we'll go Bobby, and we're going to give the last word to Dave tonight. And that's how we'll end it right there. So Eric, to you, buddy.
Yeah. So first, thank you to everybody who has listened, subscribed, downloaded. We've been tracking the numbers, right, Damien? You have a little bit, and so thank those people first.
Big
and then second, God, we would love to hear stories from those people. We'd like to hear more, it moments or discussions. And then Dave, thank you so much for coming on. I know you probably come on and talk about your spec calling ability and your and pond jumping and things like that. But that's what we did this for. That's what Bobby and I talked about, was transparency and honesty, and where maybe you are still on your journey, but that you're enjoying it and you're doing that and you've taken those steps. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's exactly what we wanted. So and then thanks, Damien, again for the platform, Bobby for the idea. Hopefully we can continue this on.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Whatever platform it is. I just think that if we can continue the discussion and the conversation, then we're on the right track.
Absolutely, 100%. Bobby.
Just like Eric said, let us know what you think. Even if you don't like what one of us said, give us some feedback on it. And Dave, thank you for doing it. I know this was the first podcast, so you're probably a little nervous.
It didn't look it.
But I never try to tell anybody what to do, but man, you guys might, that are listening, get some enjoyment out of getting some old books on waterfowl hunting so you can see where we have all come from, what our rules and regs are, what the whole deal is. The old market hunting books are amazing to read. So I would you can get them off Amazon. They're super fun. And one of the most enjoyable things is where our laws come from, because they're all based on that old market hunting days and how involved duck hunting was in just the United States. Not to exclude you, but yeah. I've never read about Canadian market hunting either. It had to exist.
No, it's all good, buddy. It's all good.
Yeah.
Dave.
Yeah, I just want to start off by just saying thank you to you guys for just having me on here, and even your desire to even hear about how I came to duck hunting. I've enjoyed the conversation. Kind of a little shout out to my dad, but he's always telling me growing up, you just worry about floating your own boat, right? Just row your own boat. And I feel like that's how we kind of wraps it up tonight. I think all of our its are different, and they should be, because none of us are raised the same way, in the same house, same beliefs. We all have different perspectives in life. And so the way you approach waterfowl hunting is very personal. And for you to be comfortable with that, and for you to go out and figure out, what is it that keeps you coming back day after day. So it shouldn't look the same, and it shouldn't be the same. That's what makes it so much fun, right? In the group I am with Bobby, we all have different little its about it, and that what makes such a great dynamic group. So just enjoy being out there, and enjoy who you are and what you're doing it for. So, but again, thanks guys a lot for having me on. I really enjoyed our conversation tonight.
So thanks for coming on, buddy. And you definitely, yeah, Bobby, he's got a big old brain, eh? Like, yeah,
Told you.
big giant brain. Awesome. Dave,
Every
buddy,
once in a while,
thank
I
you
gotta
so
tell
much.
somebody to-
Yeah. Dave, thank you so much for coming on and being so open and telling us your story. I'm sure everybody that's listening can resonate with you at some point. And it's so important to show a different side of how somebody got into this lifestyle, right? Eric, always awesome to chat with you, buddy. I love it. Bobby, thanks. I'm looking forward to you messaging me and asking me all kinds of hard questions about analytics and stuff, and then you teaching me social media, because apparently I had
don't know.
no clue on how social media worked, and until Bobby starts, hey, well, we should do this and we should do that, and I'm like, hey, buddy, I'm in, because I have no clue what I'm doing up here. Everybody, this was the second episode of a Fowl Discussion. There's many more to come. We're just scratching the surface. Just like Bobby, Dave, and Eric said, listen, if there's something you want to see, if there's something you didn't like, message us. We really do want to hear the feedback, and we will cater and move and like I said, as long as you're not a douchebag. Everybody, surround yourself with big people. Big love. This was episode 2 of a Fowl Discussion. Until next time.